Federal High Court in Abuja has ruled and ordered a final forfeiture of 753 houses allegedly built with proceeds of fraud or fraudulent practices by a top ex-government official unnamed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, while the suspects whose names were not disclosed in public domain remained under investigation. The court ruled that the suspect could not give convincing reasons why the properties should not be forfeited to federal government as requested by EFCC. EFCC, in a news release on Monday, said, "The assets is the single largest asset recovery ever made by the Commission since its creation in 2003. Details of the news release as made available by EFCC Media Unit, where EFCC said its chairman, Olusegun, has ordered the Commission operatives to commence recovery of properties suspected to have been acquired with proceeds of fraud once a suspect is under investigation, reads verbatim below. Justice Jude Onwuebuzi, on Monday, December 2, 2024, gave a ruling on a final forfeiture of an estate in Abuja measuring 150,500 square meters and containing 753 units of duplexes and other apartments. This is the single largest asset recovery by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, since its inception in 2003. The estate rests on Plot 109 Cadastral Zone CO9, Lokogoma District, Abuja. The forfeiture of the property to the federal government by a former top brass of the government was pursuant to EFCC's mandate and policy directive of ensuring that the corrupt and fraudulent do not enjoy the proceeds of their unlawful activities. In this instance, the Commission relied on Section 17 of the Advance Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act No. 14, 2006 and Section 44, 2b of the Constitution of the 199 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to push its case. Ruling on the Commission's application for the final forfeiture of the property, Justice Onwuebuzi held that the respondent have not shown cause as to why he should not lose the property, which has been reasonably suspected to have been acquired with proceeds of unlawful activities. The property is hereby finally forfeited to the federal government. The road to the final forfeiture of the property was paved by an interim forfeiture order, secured before the same judge on November 1, 2024. The government official which fraudulently built the estate is being investigated by the EFCC. The forfeiture of the asset is an important modality of depriving the suspect of the proceeds of the crime. The justification for the forfeiture is derived from Part 2, Section 7 of the EFCC Establishment Act, which stipulates that the EFCC has power to cause investigations to be conducted as to whether any person, corporate body or organization has committed any offense under this act or other law relating to economic and financial crimes, and cause investigations to be conducted into the properties of any person if it appears to the Commission that the person's lifestyle and extent of the properties are not justified by his source of income. The Commission's executive chairman, Mr. Olusegun, has repeatedly described asset recovery as pivotal in the fight against corruption, economic and financial crimes, and a major disincentive against the corrupt and the fraudulent. Addressing members of the House of Representatives Committee on Anti-Corruption recently, he said, "If you understand the intricacies involved in financial crimes investigation and prosecution, you will discover that to recover 1 billion naira is war." So, I told my people that the moment we start investigation, we must also start asset tracing, because asset recovery is pivotal in the anti-corruption fight, and one of the potent instruments that you can deploy as an anti-corruption agency for an effective fight is asset tracing and recovery. If you allow the corrupt or those that you are investigating to have access to the proceeds of their crime, they will fight you with it. So one of the ways to weaken them is to deprive them of the proceeds of their crime. So, our modus operandi has changed simultaneously. The moment we begin investigation, we begin asset tracing. That was what helped us to make our recoveries. The Establishment Act of the Commission places huge emphasis on asset recovery. Subject to the provisions of Section 24 of the Act, Whenever the assets and properties of any person arrested under the Act are attached, the Commission shall apply to the court for an interim forfeiture, and where a person is arrested for an offense under the Act, the Commission shall immediately trace and attach all the assets and properties of the person acquired as a result of such economic and financial crime, and shall thereafter cause to be obtained an interim attachment order from the court. And where the assets or properties of any person arrested for an offense under the Act has been seized, or any assets or property has been seized by the Commission under the Act, the Commission shall cause an application to be made to the court for an interim order forfeiting the property concerned to the federal government, and the court shall, if satisfied that there is prima facie evidence that the property concerned is liable to forfeiture, make an interim order forfeiting the property to the federal government, which the Commission would usually escalate to earn a final forfeiture. This procedure was duly followed in this respect. The recovery of the asset represents a milestone in the annals of operations of the EFCC and infallible proof of the commitment of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Former Nigeria Head of State, General Yakubu Gowon, says he sent his wife at the middle of the night with a letter to beg the then Head of State, General Sani Abacha, not to kill Olusegun Obasanjo, who later became two-term civilian president after the death of Sani Abacha. General Yakubu Gowon made this known while speaking as special guest of honor at the maiden edition of the Interdenominational Unity Christmas Carol and Praise Festival organized by the Plateau State Government, according to News Agency of Nigeria, NAN. The former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, was also a guest of honor at the event, which General Yakubu Gowon thanked Plateau State Government for organizing the ceremony to bring unity in the state. The former head of state said pleaded with late General Sani Abacha not to execute former President Olusegun Obasanjo for an alleged coup plot in 1995, which Obasanjo denied any involvement. According to Gowon, I wrote a letter to Abacha. I pleaded with him that God made him a leader to do good and not evil. I sent my wife with the letter in the middle of the night to Abacha in Abuja. I pleaded with him that such a thing should not happen. I'm glad that soon after that, things changed. And not only that, Obasanjo left prison, he became our president in 1999. This is something that only prayers and sincerity can do. I'm happy that today myself and Obasanjo are here to celebrate the unity of Plateau State, he said. Obasanjo was accused by the military dictator, General Sani Abacha, of being part of a planned coup to overthrow his government in 1995. Obasanjo had denied any involvement then. But despite denying any involvement and in spite of pleading innocent to the coup, Obasanjo was not spared as he was sentenced to death. He went on to spend 3 years in prison before he was released in 1998 following the death of Abacha on June 8 of same year. Obasanjo left prison to become Nigeria's first civilian president after return to democracy in 1999. He led Nigeria for 8 years, that is 2 consecutive terms of 4 years each. General Yakubu Gowon was Nigerian military head of state from 1966 to 1975. He provided leadership during Nigeria-Biafra War, which started 1967 and ended 1970, during which Olusegun Obasanjo was one of his major commanders at the battlefield against the Biafra forces. It would be recalled that in September 2023, former President Olusegun Obasanjo said that he would not want a military rule in Nigeria again because of his experience in the hands of the late military dictator, Sani Abacha. Obasanjo stated this when the Africa for Africa Youth Initiative, A4A, paid him a courtesy visit at the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library, OOPL, Ogun State. People's Gazette reported that Obasanjo said, "Yes, I love democracy. Having suffered at the hands of Abacha, Nigeria's late military dictator, I will not want a military rule. But if it has to come, what can we do? I will just say okay." The former president regretted that coup d'etat would not be happening if not because we created the condition for it. The point is this: do we have conditions that encourage the type of things that are happening? If we don't have the conditions that encourage them, they may not happen. That does not mean it should be encouraged. What it means is that we should make sure that we do everything to prevent coups from happening. The former president stressed that youth are looking for liberators, and we must bear that in mind. Why do we have to allow the youth to start looking for liberators beyond the government of the day? Why, when you see things that happen in many countries, and I will not exclude Nigeria, he however pointed out, then you wonder and don't forget, particularly the youth, they support most of these coups. The one in Gabon, the coup leader, was being carried on the held by the youth. Fisayo Soyombo, who was arrested and released after spending days in Nigerian army cell while conducting participatory observation into the activities of crude oil bunkers within Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital on Saturday, says Nigerians are worth fighting for, saying, public outcry of Nigerians made him to only spend 3 days in military detention. Fisayo, who took to his Facebook profile to pin down some of his observations while in military detention facility, also granted interview with Arise TV, where he narrated and stated that the Nigerian army personnel arrested him at the scene of crime, but he could not identify himself or refused to identify himself for obvious security reasons because he had been told by the illegal bunkerers that men of the Nigerian army have been bribed, hence introducing himself to the soldiers as a journalist could cost him his life. Fisayo said, Nigerians are not worth fighting for. I hear that every now and then, and I've always disbelieved it. Yesterday, you proved me right. You all are the reason my detention by Nigerian army lasted only 3 days. I'm a free man today because of your social media engagements with Free Fishayono and the publications, broadcasts by the traditional media. And I can prove it. After my arrest at about 2 a.m. on Wed, I was grilled by different levels of the army until deep into the night. I didn't return to my cell until at least 11 p.m. on Wednesday. My case was then forwarded to a superior office that was to interrogate me on Thursday. Surprisingly, Thursday was uneventful. From morning until night, this office never sent for me. I soon learned the army would take as long as it wanted to conduct their investigation, just to establish that I was indeed an investigative journalist. To my utmost surprise, on Friday morning, at about 11 a.m. or thereabouts, I was retrieved from my cell for transfer to the Military Intelligence Brigade, MIB. It was during the transfer that someone who ran into me asked to know my name, after which they said, "You're the one, you're in the news. Without your pressure, I'd still be in that cell by now, away from civilization and held incommunicado." So, yes, my freedom is your freedom. This victory exists because of you, you and you. Thank you, Fisayo stated. After granting interview with the Arise TV presenters on Saturday morning, Fisayo returned to his Facebook profile to say, "Who are the saboteurs in Nigerian army and how exalted are they?" I answered questions asked by the army in detention, and by the time I regained freedom, the oil bunkerers knew almost every single thing I told my interrogators. How did oil bunkerers know so much about me before I exited 6th Division? Nigerian army in a press release had identified Fisayo as one of the illegal oil bunkerers arrested at the scene of crime. The headquarters, 6th Division, Nigerian Army, has expressed concern over allegations circulating on social media that it detained an investigative journalist in Port Harcourt. While the division does not typically engage with the purveyors of falsehoods, it is necessary to set the record straight. As part of its intensified operations against illegal oil bunkering, the 6th Division Nigerian Army has recorded significant successes. Recent intelligence uncovered the activities of a notorious gang involved in pipeline vandalism and illegal oil connections in the region. In a carefully planned operation, troops tracked the suspects to an illegal oil bunkering site. During the operation, multiple arrests were made, including that of Mr. Fisayo Soyombo, who was found at the scene. The suspects, including Mr. Soyombo, are currently undergoing preliminary investigations to determine their level of involvement in the illegal activities. His arrest is directly linked to the ongoing anti-oil theft operations in the region, and any claims suggesting otherwise are baseless. The division strongly urges media outlets to verify the accuracy of their reports before disseminating information to the public. The 6th Division Nigerian Army remains committed to combating criminal activities, particularly oil theft, to ensure the protection of national resources and increased oil and gas production in the region. The Nigerian Army assures the public of its dedication to upholding security and welcomes constructive engagement to foster understanding and transparency. Danjuma Jonah Danjuma, Lieutenant Colonel, Acting Deputy Director, 6th Division, Army Public Relations stated this in a press release issued on Friday. Fisayo Soyombo gave more account of his investigation with the illegal oil bunkers, while accusing the Nigerian Army of deliberately compromising his safety when he was in their custody. I will be honest, it is the first time I have genuinely felt my security compromised. I believe the Army deliberately, the acting spokesman of the Nigerian Army deliberately compromised my security by releasing that statement and linking me to oil bunkers. I was in detention. I made no mention of oil bunkering. Now you've gone to tell illegal bunkers that, look, this guy was on your trail. I am an investigative and undercover journalist. I was investigating illegal oil bunkering. It happened that someone in the security setup was offended that he didn't get bribed because the illegal bunkers would bribe people in security. One got annoyed and tipped off others. There was no arrest. The Nigerian Army did not arrest me. They spotted me, flashed their torch, and I came out and wanted to open a conversation. I didn't show them my ID because the illegal bunkers had said they had settled everyone and the guys who came were the ones that were not settled, and a conversation was going on to settle them, so I just thought it was a settlement conversation and I came forward. The real grounds of the Army were that, 1. I didn't carry them along. I won't deny that I have low trust for Nigerian public institutions. I didn't trust the Army. I didn't carry them along. But also known illegal oil bunkers were bribing different people with various security formations and I would endanger my life by carrying them along if I didn't know who was who. They all felt I was an illegal oil bunkerer, and I played along until they took me to 6th Division. And I thought from then I was speaking with people in offices who were investigating the case. That is when I said I was an undercover journalist and showed them proof. Of course, the press is not free in a number of ways, and one of them is that, especially people in security, don't want to hear the word investigation. Every encounter I have had with the police, the military, once I say, I was investigating, something just changes in them. They don't want the press to do any form of independent work. Fisayo words end in quote.
Osazuwa Connedio, bringing you the news in a more digital way.